If you've got the Wi-Fi password, you can access the front wheel. Wow. We have the tandem adventure bike for you and your partner that want to go adventuring. Whoa, this looks old. Nice. Hello and welcome back to the channel. It's me, Rick Cutler, and you're joining me in a hotel room because I've been traveling around a lot. But I've been traveling around on 4 wheels rather than 2 because I've had a lot of heavy equipment to travel back and forward with. So instead of having 2 wheels, I'm on 4. The upside is I've got a laptop, and one of the things we've been looking at is my wife's been using AI software and she's been using it to generate images. So I gave her the task of, can we generate motorcycle images and see what the software can come up with. So she's fired me back a lot of images and said, here's a little presentation, have a look through and see what you think. So let's get into it. So this is one of the first images that actually came up, and I put in my own bike because I've got an Africa Twin. I just thought, right, well, let's see what it does when I put in an Africa Twin. And Jesus, let's just, I don't know, start from one end and work forward, I think. So yeah, we've got 2 exhausts, one undertail and one low slung, 2 different sizes. I really like how the chain, if you have a look down at the chain just disappears. And let's just address the elephant in the room, and that's the fact that it's got half an engine hung out the front in front of the other half of the engine. So God knows what it's done to create that. I like how the exhaust is like really quite thin. It's like it's got exhaust and engine bars mixed up. Like no connection between the actual exhaust end cans and the actual exhaust piping. Even especially this top one. The top one's just connected to the frame. It's like an exhaust for the frame. Jeez. What do you think? I think it looks a bit ridiculous. We'll move on to the next one, see what we got next. Okay, so this looks like a sort of classic touring bike that's just kind of, yeah, it's managed to get an entire sort of radiator in front of the radiator. Yeah, a little bit weird. The seat's like got 3 humps to it, as if you can have 3 passengers. And then is that like, I think up here that looks like a little baby seat, like you could have your little toddler sat in the front of the tank. It's got half a sort of, you can see the air-cooled fins here, but no actual engine to oh no V-twin. Again, it's looking at this AI software. So Rachel's been using Focus, which is a stable diffusion platform, just to try and generate images. She's been doing a lot of work with the images. She's managed to get what she wants out of it. I was just kind of morbid curiosity. Let's see what we can do when it comes to like an actual asking it for a motorcycle. Yeah, so the 4-seater motorcycles there. It's got like quite a small front wheel again compared to the back wheel. The sort of proportions are not quite there with that one. Oh, wow, so this looks like it looks a little bit like a CCM. It looks a little bit like a sort of Ducati Scrambler type to the front end, but then the seat goes mental. It's almost like it's on pit bike tires, pit bike wheels, like teeny tiny wheels. The whole thing looks shrunk in its sort of proportions. I'm not quite sure what's going on with the rider's arm. His left arm sort of gains an extra sort of limb off it. Just a bit closer inspection on that tail end. If I have a look down here at the tail end, it's like it's got a mudguard that's, I don't know, wireless or Bluetooth. It's just not quite connected there. Nice. Okay, so we've got, let me get this right, a twin engine without an engine in the rear, really. It doesn't look like it's got a rear engine. Loads of exhaust pipes for what looks like a parallel twin, potentially. It's got 4 pipes off a parallel twin. Yeah, it's got a middle wheel that's sort of suspended in midair more than anything else. Like it might, you know, when trucks do it, trucks get a sort of an additional axle of tires that are in use when it's laden. So maybe that tire sort of engages once it's loaded up with, what, 1, 2, 3 passengers. Yeah, a bit of a funny one. And again, sort of that potential for it to be a twin-engined or rear-engine bike as well. A slight issue with the forks as well. It looks like the left-hand fork goes on the right-hand side of the wheel, and then there's a fork that disappears into the middle of nowhere. Kind of interesting. In fact, just even more interesting, if you have a look at that tail light, it looks like the tail light is actually pointing out to the side, like that way. And I'm trying to figure out whether it's actually just got half a handlebar or it's just sort of perspective and the headlights blocking it. But yeah, it just doesn't look quite right on that one. Wow. Okay. So it looks like it's attempted to do a sports bike. Like a huge sports bike or a little tiny rider. So I'll not try and draw too much attention to the rider, other than I'm just don't know whether he's got like a periscope type viewing point that goes out towards the front of the bike, because he's just got his head into the tank. Again, a little bit of a disconnect between his sort of hands and the controls on that one. Quite a few exhausts. We've got massive front tire, massive rear tire, Bluetooth tail tidy. I mean, it does make the tail look tidy, but it's like there's a bit of a disconnect there, just to say the least. Yeah, tiny little headlights at the front and a bit of a fairing light there, as if it was like a sports tourer, if you know what I mean. What else we got? A bit of weirdness going on with the exhaust at the front. Again, looking at that, that would have to be like, I don't know, like an inline six engine going towards the back. It's blinking huge. There's another bit of a disconnect with the what looks like the swing arm, but there's another swing arm, and then there's a bit of a brake and not a brake, and then is it chain or is it belt? It looks like it could be belt, but I can see sort of teeth in amongst it as well. So it's, yeah, a bit funny with that one. Yeah, front disc brake looks a little bit funky. Front fairing looks like it cuts into the actual wheel itself. Might be an optical illusion whether it actually cuts in near the spokes. That might be quite a cool design, actually, if that was what it was actually doing. Whether it could do or not, whether it's mounted at the axle or not. Bit of a funny one. Yeah, go figure. We're going to be looking at some really kind of funky bikes on this. Yeah, we'll carry on. We'll carry on. Yeah, going with the continuation of exhausts coming out of nowhere. So I've no idea why we've got an exhaust. If you actually have a look at it and you know how an engine works, we've got an air-cooled engine there, but exhausts need to come out the top of the cylinder. Why the exhaust is mounted to the bottom of the cylinder, I have no idea with that middle pipe on the exhaust, but at least it's attached to the end can and potentially it could work. We've got some really funky rear suspension going on, but at least it's a potential for a sports touring bike, a bit old school looking. It's got two seats, it's got two wheels, it's got two kickstands. So yeah, it's the AI software is trying its best to try and figure out what a motorcycle is, what the different styles of a motorcycle are. Because I've put in a couple of little anecdotal things. I've let Rachel run with this. I've just given her a few keywords like sports tour or super sport or cafe racer or cruiser. So I'm not quite sure. I've not seen these images. I've just seen kind of in the background. I know she's up to something and she's generated this presentation with about 30 bikes for us to have a quick look through and just see how they look and see. Yeah, it's got disc brakes, it's got front forks, it's got two front forks, one either side of the wheel, so it's learning. It's kind of getting there. Right, okay, so I don't know whether she tried to put in Fireblade. I don't know, but it looks like the frame's just sort of duplicated itself 3 times up. Like if you know when you're printing something and the printer jams, it's got like the seat is a cafe racer style, and then it's got like a second bar coming up towards the seat, and a third bar coming up to the seat, and a fourth bar coming up to the seat, and a bit of a sort of Bluetooth suspension rear spring there. Exhausts, yeah, they're coming out the front of the engine casing towards the front, so it's not attached to the cylinder heads. We've got a bit of a V-twin or a V4 pattern going there. It does seem to like these air-cooled fins on the engine, even though it's showing there's a bit of a radiator at the front or oil cooler at the front. Steering rake, the rake looks quite steep on the front there, like it's not quite right. Again, rear swing arms looking a bit sketchy. I'm nitpicking here, really. I'm just trying to detract from the fact that the bike looks like it could have been on fire at some point. Yeah, let's say. But AI is just trying to generate a bike, and I'm just asking it to see what it'll do. I genuinely thought if I typed in something like a futuristic motorcycle, it'd come back with something tangible, but to look at, you can go, right, well, it's got two wheels and it looks a bit motorcycly, but it really is sort of suffering at trying to decipher what these things are. Bluetooth front wheel or wireless front wheel. If you've got the Wi-Fi password, you can access the front wheel. But then there's a bit of a fork and tires coming down the front of the actual engine there. It looks like it's meant to be, again, parallel a V-twin engine with air cooling, although the exhausts look like they do nothing at all. Everything's there, just not connected, or there's a bit of a disconnect. Nice. Okay. This reminds me of the old Harley V-rods with that big sweeping tank. Big V-twin engine. Yeah, the exhaust looks quite cool. It's gone for a single-sided swing arm, but with the wheel at the other side, so that the swing arm's on that side, and then all the gubbins that goes inside the wheel is now on this side. So if you have a look closely at that rear wheel, it's just, like I said, everything's there. It's just not the right way around. It's suffered a little bit there. Looks like the exhaust could be connected into something that might actually be exhaustish, so it might go into the engine at some point there. But is that? It is. Have a look at that mirror on that far side. We have a Bluetooth mirror. But sitting back and actually having a look at this, it's got some really quite nice lines. It's actually quite a good looking bike. Geez, I'd love to see the range on it. You'd probably get about 400 miles out of that tank. And sort of looking at this perspective of it and dimensions, geez. But you're going nowhere on that back wheel. Pit stand for the front wheels. At least it's not got two or three side stands or side stands and kickstands and swing center stands all in the mix. Anyway, whoa, this looks old, classic. At least the exhaust's coming out the actual top of the cylinder head there, although it does have a sort of cylinder into nowhere. So that third, the rear cylinder, I don't know what that's doing. But yeah, it's just a bit of a classic stretched limousine of a bike. You got like your pillions sat way back, lowing down out the way, so they're not going to get chewed up by the wind. It tends to be like my wife's usual bugbear on the back of any sports bike is she ends up high and up and into the wind. So yeah, at least that way it should be quite tucked in nicely and protected. Oh, we've got another baby seat. So yeah, we've got a baby seat on top of the tank. Again, big dimensions for the front wheel, rear wheel. Everything else has got slightly shrunken dimensions. Quite a lot of bodywork to that tail end. And it's almost as if there's like two tanks, so it's... And no controls. No rear sets. So there's nothing for your feet to go on. Is that like a Mercedes in the background, I think? I do think that would be quite a long stretch as well from where that seat is to the controls, the grips, your clip-ons. And is that like... It looks like it's got an additional control lever, like an additional brake, yeah? So it's got a brake with the controls and a brake with the I don't know, an extra brake lever. Go figure. Wow, okay. We have the tandem adventure bike for you and your partner that want to go adventuring. It looks like a multistrada type to the front at least, and then the back end looks more like an Africa Twin type, the old Africa Twin. So yeah, we've got tandem controls. At least your pillion can hang onto handlebars rather than hanging onto your good self or the rear rails. Uh, it looks like it's got a big end can exhaust, but not really connected to anything. Could be just like a shiny little pannier. But yeah, we've actually got on this front bike two crank casings as well. So it's like it's got twin engines at the front and then another engine at the rear. So it's got three engines to it on this bike. So definitely can go big distances. Smallish looking adventure tires, like the back looks like a 17 and a 19 compared to maybe 21s that you might have on adventure bikes. At least it doesn't have, oh, geez, how many mirrors? One, two, three mirrors, four potentially, five, six. Yeah, at least your cupboard's looking back. A bit of a gap between the two bikes as well. Yeah, and just a bit of a strange one. Again, this AI software is just doing what it wants to do, really. We're just giving it a little bit of a prompt to say, give me a motorcycle that, in a cruiser motorcycle, off road. I'm just wondering whether it's actually picked up on the fact that we've asked for an adventure bike and we've asked for an Africa Twin. I mean, that background, it looks more like Australia and Ayers Rock, but in reality, geez, that could be Africa, and it could be trying to do an Africa and a twin motorcycle, an Africa Twin. Here's a twin bike in Africa. I might be reading too much into the prompts there. What do you think? Wow. That could actually be a really cool design. What, rear wheel steer? You could have your, well, it's single seater, but again, no foot pegs, no controls. Interesting. Wow, it looks like the old, what was the Yamaha? Not the, was it the Virago? The Virago had that really nice tank, that, really nice teardrop shape to it. And just looking at the logistics of that, I mean, potentially you could flash your high beams at the car that might be tailgating you. There's potential. Yeah, that looks quite funky actually. I don't know whether if that steering actually works, whether you could have a really tight turning circle, really tight turning radius, whether you can sort of crab across lanes like the sort of four-wheel steer vehicles can do. Yeah, a bit of an interesting one, that. What have we got here? And again, another big air-cooled V-twin looking thing. Has suspension on the rear. It looks like there's no spring to it, so it's just solid, but not. The seat looks really quite awkward. Yeah, not too bad actually, not too bad. Bit clunky, a bit weird, but it's like it's learning. It's getting there. It's getting a little bit better. We've got handlebars. They look a little bent. We've got controls left and right. Yeah, I'm not sure about pegs. Whether that's meant to be a peg down here, just behind that front wheel for controls, but there's certainly nothing around this area in the middle. The kickstand looks like it's a little bit clunky as well. Is that rider holding a torso? It looks like it's holding like, because he's not holding the bars, although it looks like he's holding the bars. It looks like he's got a Bluetooth mirror on his arm as well. Geez, it looks like the love child of the Nike, but with one front wheel instead of two front wheels. high beak as well as the fender. It looks like it's got them pit bike wheels again. The proportions are well off. And then do we need to start talking about the exhausts again? Jesus, what's that? Like 1, 2, 3, 4 pipes coming out the front, and then they go up and do a bit of a loop-de-loop, go down the other side, and end up on like a little teeny tiny can that you used to see on the old two-strokes. I'll try not to say anything about the rider. At least he's on foot pegs, at least. Wow. We have wireless Bluetooth handlebars with 3 mirrors. Again, it's tried to do something along the lines of a Ducati, tried to get a bit of a scrambler look to it, but with the dimensions of a Honda Grom or a Honda Monkey NSX. God knows how many engines are in there. That looks like one. Another one back here. Suspension. Again, they got quite a bit of a weird thing going on with the tail. Exhaust into the fender, not connected to the actual exhaust pipes. Yeah, we're getting to the point where we're kind of understanding it. Well, again, we've got the range extender version with the 2 tanks. It's trying to take elements of motorcycles and put them together, but it doesn't actually understand the concept of the motorcycle. It's just looking at the elements and trying to put them in some coherent order. But like I say, Bluetooth handlebars. Ooh. Inline 6. Potentially an inline 6 with that number of exhausts on it. Wow. So I'd expect some pegs way down near that exhaust, given the seat position and how far is he going to stretch to reach those controls. Kind of cool. He picks up like lines, so that tail section's nice. The tank's nice. It's coming up with some really nice, interesting lines, but sheer mechanics of it are what a bike should be used for is just being lost in translation. Case in point. So he's sat back on this thing. It looks like it's meant to be an old BMW, but instead of having a boxer engine, we've got parallel cooled. We've got an exhaust pipe that goes sort of round and back on itself and back towards the back of the bike. Again, small proportions. It looks like it's shrunk the dimensions. Like it's just 90% of the bike it used to be. And again, we've got the rider facing completely the wrong way. Go figure. Okay, so it's tried to do a motocross bike with a massive, massive rake out the front for that front wheel. Proportions, yeah, your front wheels are teeny tiny. It's tried. To be fair, it's a good attempt at a motocross bike. It's got the chunky tires. It's got the swing arm proportions roughly right to the tail end with the exhaust hanging out. The numbers on the side, the sort of graphics, and that. Okay, the beak's a little bit weird. We've got the headless rider at the rear. We've got the bikeless rider at the front. He's actually floating in midair as well. He's actually off the ground, whether he's just hit a bump and managed to take off a little section there. It looks almost Harry Potterish. Harry Potter's riding his broom. It's a bit like the motorcycle equivalent. Yeah, it's done a cruiser. We've got the forks coming down, and the forks connect to the wheel at the rim rather than actual axle. It looks a little bit weird, that. Again, we've got exhaust pipes that don't connect to the engine. It's trying, bless its cotton socks, for what it is. Oh, that actually looks like a Ducati Scrambler that might have had the front end dived in after a crash or something, where he's had a front end shunt and driven into something. So there's really quite a steep rake on that. But quite a lot of the elements there. We got suspension, it does nothing. The seat looks a bit big on the dimensions. How many tail lights do you need on that tail? It's not quite a tail tidy, that. It's not a tidy tail at all. Still no foot pegs, still no controls. At least it's only got one kickstand. Wow, a bit Mad Max this, a bit steampunky. Howl's moving motorcycle. I don't know. We've got our suspension system is exhausted. So again, we've got twin engine, we've got it twin cranks, we've got air cooled something that's not actually exhausted. We've got a front right fork that comes down and connects to the left hand side of the wheel. Again, we've got that sort of mudguard and beak going on. Yeah, very Mad Max, very steampunk. Next up, what we got? Oh, really interesting suspension setup to the front with them forks. But we've got quite a nice, neat, tidy handlebars, your controls into the tank, into the seat, onto the tail. It's really quite nice. It's sort of picked up on some degree of an element of cafe racer. Big V twin, no exhaust going to it, but there's pipes. Yeah, no controls again. So it's really struggling with getting those foot controls in. It's kind of struggling with the concept of the suspension on the rear there. The wheels actually look sort of more oval, like they're turned in, like they're facing a different direction to the actual bike itself. Yeah, we'll carry on. Oh, wow, what is going on there? Is that a seat? Is that a leg? It looks like it's meant to be a leg that he's. Oh, it's meant to be his leg. His legs, but not legs. And geez, so he's sort of sat in the tank rather than the seat. His hips are meant to be somewhere. I just don't know. Like, um, yeah, exhaust is going in back into the bottom of the cylinders. Again, it loves these V twin air cooled, and again we've got an extra cylinder back there. We've got exhausts. So that exhaust might actually go into something. Jeez. Yeah, quite impressive. Again, beautiful lines. Look at that tail section. Look at that seat. The seat into the tank. That design looks beautiful. Again, long reach. No rear sets, no foot controls, no foot pegs, but gorgeous lines to sit back and have a look at it and just go, yeah, that's a bonny looking bike. Until you start realizing that God knows what's going on with that engine. Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. It's got a proper looking swing arm until you start looking closer and it's going into the bottom end and it's, yeah, at least it looks like it comes off the wheel nice. Again, kind of weird looking controls. The controls look like they're set back to where the front forks actually come up and meet into the front of the bike, but good attempt at the design. I like that sort of, I like this sort of swooping line of this seat going forward into the tank. That's actually quite a cool design. And this front section here, where it goes into a black front fairing, silvery, almost platinum looking paint scheme into that sort of dark, the black on the side, the side fairings. It reminds me of the Zero DX, DSX. They had those sort of two-tone color schemes. Oh God. Oh dear God. Right, okay, where to begin? Do we begin? Jeez. Uh, two real tails, fenders. What, one, two, three, four seats, if you're counting that as a bit of a seat. Controls into middle air. You're definitely not going to sit in that seat. Oh, geez. Just wow. That's just impressive, that. How many? One, two, three, four, five crankcases. Yeah, clutch case, gear case, whatever you want to call it. Wow, interesting. Again, really high seat up front. It's sort of like in this sort of saddle into tank get up, so much so that it does it twice. Easy rider style high backrest, but not quite. It's tried to do a cruiser. Wow. Okay, interesting. Let's see. Let's digest this. We've got a handlebar coming out that rear section. We've got nowhere to actually sit because that tank facing back and headlight facing back. Again, nice design with the actual tank and headlight. If that's what the front end looks like, it's going to look quite cool. Single front fork. Is it doable? I don't know. You get single rear swing arms. Why not? Exhausts, yeah, clunky, yeah, engine, we're seeing again. Is that like half? That looks like it's got half a disc brake at the back there. A bit of an interesting one, that one. We carry on. Ooh, right, okay. Let's see, we've got, again, side-facing tail lights facing out to the side on that rear section, that rear fender. What else we got? Yeah, exhaust, and it lights this exhaust into the bottom of the cylinder. Go figure. Not too bad. It looks like it's attempted to do a drum brake on the front, on the other side. Oh my word. Right, okay. We've got a bit of a Bluetooth front wheel or a wireless front wheel. There's not really anything connecting that to that. Everything looks super high up. What is with that suspension? Oh dear. Again, we're getting really nice lines on that tank into seats onto the rear. It's got a bit of a design flair to it, hasn't it? If you could just take the top quarter of that bike as you look at it, just anything above the engine, and just design everything else underneath it to be a proper bike, it would actually have some really quite cool looking lines. But yeah, you can't have a bike with the front wheel disconnected. So looking at it, that is the last bike on the slideshow. She's done cracking, actually putting in all the time and effort to create that little slideshow for us, and all these bikes generated by that Focus AI software. Thanks for watching the video. If you've enjoyed the video, let me know if you've liked it. Leave a comment, leave a like. Feel free, if you don't subscribe to the channel, subscribe. And yeah, I appreciate your time and thanks for watching. If you want to see more of these, we can have a little bit play around more, because I want to actually see if we can get a futuristic looking bike generated. Clearly it's trying its best, but I want to see if maybe like get it into a Tokyo style setting, something cyberpunky, and see what we can actually come up with. If you're interested in watching that, I'll see if we can get that video done for you. In the meantime, thanks for watching. I've been Rick Cutler. Have a good night. Cheers.